In this video, we're going to talk about how to divide polynomials using long division. Recall we can divide numbers as follows. This is an old-fashioned long division. When we do that old-fashioned long division, we have certain terms that come up. The remainder is 3, the quotient is 26, the dividend is 107, the divisor is 4. And we can, our multiplication statement will be dividend equals divisor times quotient plus remainder. So in this case, 107 equals 4 times 26 plus 3. And that's true. Our division statement will be dividend over divisor equals quotient plus remainder over divisor. So 107 over 4 equals 26 plus 3 over 4. And that's true. Well, we can follow a similar process with polynomials. Imagine that we want to determine 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 7x minus 1 quantity divided by x minus 3. We're going to state the multiplication statement and the division statement. Well, we start by putting the divisor on the left and the dividend inside the long division symbol. Now, only look at the first term. Only look at the x and only look at the 3x cubed. We're going to divide 3x cubed into x. In other words, we're going to say, what is 3x cubed divided by x? The answer is 3x squared. Don't worry about restrictions. And we're going to now take that 3x squared and put it over the first term. So this 3x squared will go over the first term in the dividend. Okay? Now, we're going to take that 3x squared that's over that first term and we're going to distribute it back to both. So even though we didn't use that negative 3 a moment ago, we're going to distribute the 3x squared to that negative 3. So 3x squared times x is 3x cubed, and 3x squared times negative 3 is negative 9x squared. Okay? There we go. Now, what we're next going to do is we are going to subtract this quantity of 3x cubed minus 9x squared. We put a bracket there. We put a subtraction in front, and we're going to subtract. Well, 3x cubed minus 3x cubed is equal to 0. So this 3x cubed right here minus this 3x cubed right here gives us a 0. So we're just going to leave it blank. This negative 5x squared right here is going to subtract this negative 9x squared right there, giving us positive 4x squared. Now, the negative 7x will subtract a 0, and the negative 1 will subtract a 0. So some people might just say, just bring those down. So this is what will happen at the end of our first step. We've got 4x squared minus 7x minus 1. We're now going to repeat the process. We're going to divide x right here into 4x squared. So 4x squared divided by x is 4x, and ignore the restrictions. And we're now going to put a positive 4x as the next term up here. Okay, so we'll show those steps. So there we go. We've got that positive 4x. Now, what next happens is we take this positive 4x and we distribute it to both, just like we did a while ago, to both the x and the negative 3. Well, 4x times x is 4x squared. And positive 4x times negative 3 is negative 12x. Okay? And that's what we get. So we get 4x squared minus 12x. Now, what we then have to do is put a bracket around the whole thing and put a minus sign in front because we're going to subtract that whole quantity. Well, 4x squared minus 4x squared is 0, so we leave it blank. Negative 7 minus negative 12x is positive 5x, and we bring down that minus 1. Okay? Now, we again say, looking only at the first term in each, we say how many times does x go into 5x? Well, what's 5x divided by x? The answer is positive 5. And again, we're ignoring the restrictions as we do each of these steps. We then take that positive 5 and distribute it back to both the x and the 3. So 5 times x minus 3 is 5x minus 15. But we're going to have to subtract it, and we're going to put a bracket around the whole thing and a minus sign in front. Okay? Like that. Now we're going to do our subtraction. 5x minus 5x is 0. We leave it blank. Negative 1 minus negative 15 is positive 14. And there we go. And now we see that our remainder, which is right here, has a smaller degree than our divisor, which is right here. The remainder is degree 0, the divisor is degree 1. When the remainder is a smaller degree than the divisor, that tells us to stop. Now we can state our multiplication statement just like we did a while ago. We know that our multiplication statement tells us that dividend equals quotient times divisor plus remainder. And so we can just fill those values in. That means 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 7x minus 1 is equal to 3x squared plus 4x plus 5 times x minus 3 plus 14. Okay? And there we go. Similarly, we know what our division statement is. Our division statement always says dividend over divisor equals quotient plus remainder over divisor. So 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 7x minus 1, quantity over x minus 3, is equal to 3x squared plus 4x plus 5, plus 14 over x minus 3. Now, what if we want to divide these two polynomials and state the multiplication statement and division statement? That looks a little bit more complicated maybe. So we want to make sure that both our dividend and our divisor are ordered properly from the highest exponent term to the lowest exponent term. And notice this, we also, in this first term, in the dividend, we don't have an x cubed term. So notice that I put a 0x cubed there. I put a placeholder in. And in the divisor, we don't have an x term. So I put a placeholder in at 0x. That makes life much, much easier. So we put our divisor on the left and our dividend under the long division sign. And we're only going to focus, like we did earlier, on 2x to the 4 and x cubed, and we're going to divide. Well, 2x to the 4 divided by x cubed is 2x. So we're going to put a 2x up here, but then we're going to distribute that 2x to every single one of these terms. Okay? And when we do that, we end up with 2x to the 4 plus 8x cubed plus 0x squared minus 22x. Of course, we put a bracket around the whole thing and a minus sign in front. Now, we can just look at the 2x to the 4s. 2x to the 4 minus 2x to the 4 is 0. 0x cubed minus positive 8x cubed is negative 8x cubed. Negative 7x squared minus 0x squared is negative 7x squared. 9x minus negative 22x is 31x. And then we bring down the plus 3. Okay? Then we have to do the process again. What shows as our remainder right here is not yet of a lesser degree than our divisor. They're both degree 3. So I'm going to take this term right here and divide the term x cubed. Let me give me a moment to get my pen back. So I'm going to say, what's negative 8x cubed divided by x cubed? And the answer is negative 8. And so I'm going to take that negative 8 and I'm going to put it up top. Okay? There we go. Then I'm going to take that negative 8, I include the minus sign, and I'm going to distribute to all three of the terms here. Whoops, I missed that 0x. I'm going to distribute to all three of the terms there. All four of the terms there, sorry. And when I do that, I get negative 8x cubed minus 32x squared plus 0x plus 88. but I have to make sure to put a bracket around it with a minus sign in front. Now, negative 8x cubed minus negative 8x cubed is 0. Negative 7x squared minus negative 32x squared is positive 25x squared. 31x minus 0x is 31x. 3 minus 88 is negative 85. I've now got a quadratic remainder. And that's good to know because I started off with a cubic divisor. When the remainder is a lower degree than the divisor, you're done. Okay? So we know our quotient, divisor, dividend, and remainder, and we can just state our multiplication statement, remembering the rule, and we can state our division statement, remembering the rule. Okay? And let's do another example to show you there's a mistake sometimes people make when they formulate the division statement. Suppose we wanted to do this long division. X cubed minus 9x squared minus 8x plus 5 divided by 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. Well, right here, we just did the whole thing without showing you. But you would end up following the same steps we just described earlier. And nothing special about this except we have some fractions. We have our remainder down here. We have our dividend here. We have our quotient up here and our divisor. Okay? So we follow the usual steps with our multiplication statement and our division statement. The multiplication statement, nothing particularly special. But the division statement, I want you to pay attention to what happens. We get fraction over fraction. We get a fraction, but within the fraction are more fractions. We don't like that. That doesn't look particularly classy. So let's look at this. We've got, look at the numerator of that fraction. It has fractions in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply numerator and denominator of that red portion by 9. When we do that, we get 9 times negative 17 ninths x plus 74 ninths in the numerator. And that becomes negative 17x plus 74. And what we've now done is we've gotten rid of the fractions in the fraction. We have a very sophisticated looking rational expression. But at this point, there's a mistake that sometimes people make. Sometimes what people do is they'll then say 1/3 x minus 29 over 9 minus, they'll take this minus sign, bring it down, and then they'll say 17x plus 74 over 9 times 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. But unfortunately, that's wrong because this minus sign, when it's in front like that, distributes to the 17x and to the 74. So if you're going to take that minus sign and put it in front, make sure that middle portion becomes a minus sign. Therefore, it would ultimately be that you would be adding 74 in that numerator. Okay? So again, here's the mistake people make. They take that minus sign in front of the 17x. They bring it down there, and that's all they do. But that green plus sign should be a minus sign, and it should look like this. Okay, so that would be your correct division statement in a very sophisticated way. Now, it's an important process for getting full marks on a test. If you leave it with just a plus sign in front like that, I'll mark that correct. And if you put a minus sign in front like that, I'll mark that correct. Okay, and that is the end of their slideshow on long division. We're going to have a subsequent slideshow on synthetic division coming up in a second. A subsequent video, excuse me.